And welcome back to this episode of Dwain Woode, MD Live, and our Limitless Living Pathway, where we refuse to be confined by limitations, internal or external. Over the past several weeks, we've been exploring every dimensions of our health. Those are the pillars, what it means to be healthy, from our emotional and environmental to our relationships and our routines. But tonight, we close out with this transformative journey with a powerful truth. Your mind is a gateway to your healing. If you've ever wondered how curiosity, learning, and mental engagement into the things around you, how that can help reverse diabetes, then this is the episode for you. How can it build a healthy life? You want to hang out with us here in this space, and we're going to be walking through that here together. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And we're creating that life that we've always wanted. We're living a limitless life. And as you heard, we're not allowing anything from outside or anything from inside to prevent us from doing what we need to do to be successful. We're presenting our best self, our best health, and our best plans for our life. Go ahead and put new in the comments if you're new to me, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that I'm excited to see you here and have you in this space. If you do have questions as we move through the show, go ahead and put those in the comments with a Q in front of it, because I'd love to get to those and to answer those questions for you. If you've been here, you know how we do. If you haven't been here, you will find out. I've got with me my glucose monitors and my ketone monitor, and then of course I have my my Dexcom Clarity Report, which we'll take a look at here in just a minute to see what's been going on with my blood sugars over the last little while, and that's what you're seeing on the screen right now. So here are my monitors, and down below, right there, that is my Dexcom Clarity. And we'll get to see what's been going on since we've been together, and we've not looked at my blood sugars since we ended our fast last week. Now, I've got to say a couple things. This pathway that we've been on has been an amazing one. This mini series on the domains of health, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you have not been joining us, if you've not been with us in the morning, remember, one of the tools that we are using is this idea of movement. And movement is pivotal in limitless living. It means that you have to be moving on a daily basis. And our 100-day walk to consistency and health, the series officially ended. We're on day what? We're on day 5, I think, of our extended series. So we ended 100 days, and we've got a mini series that we're doing now called The Bridge to Mastery. The Bridge to Mastery. And so our new series is going to get started here in just a few days. So if you've not already done so, go ahead and get on there. Make sure you're watching that. Make sure you are coming along with us as we are continuing to build a pathway, build a structure that takes us successfully into the future. So we'll talk more about that here in just a minute. But just wanted to say, if you've not been walking with us, get out there and do it. Start walking through. And the Bridge series that we're doing right now really is a good place to jump in and to begin working on some of those concepts and those thoughts, so that as we start our new series coming up in the next weeks, that you are quite ready to be there with us. I do see some of our community members out there. We'll say hi to them in just a minute. But in the meantime, before that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars and what's been happening. So here is my this is my Freestyle Libre, and this is a Libre 3, I believe. It's not a plus. And so, yeah, let me see how many days down there. You guys can count the little dots. But I'm looking at this, see that squiggly line right there? That is my blood sugar, and that's what it's been doing over the past day or so. And you'll see we've been 100 or less for the last 12 hours. We'll take a look at my Dexcom in a minute so I can actually show you what the numbers are. But you'll see there that we've been kind of hanging in the 88s And today, actually, I think it would have been lower, except today I didn't follow my one meal a day per se, because I had a small meal before I went walking at lunchtime, and then right before I came home, I had some almonds and some cashews. But you'll see there that that number really didn't spike, didn't change much. Let's go ahead and this while I'm talking, let's go ahead and look at the Dexcom. And the Dexcom, this is a G7. You'll see there. And for this one, what I like is I can actually put my finger on the screen and you can follow my blood sugars as I scroll. So we started this morning around 7 o'clock in the low 100s. And I think, let me see, what's the highest that I got today according to this? Kind of remained in the low 100s. So right around here was where I had, what did I have for lunch? I think I had some cheese. I actually don't even remember. But it wasn't. I think yeah, it was some cheese, and we kind of hung in the low 90s, 100s, and then of course to where we are right now in the 70s and 80s. If I go back 24 hours and do the same thing, you'll see over the past 24 hours, like right there, that was last night. I got up to 132, but for the most part over the last 24 hours, we've been in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, up to the low 100s. And we'll take a look at my actual report here in a little while, so you can actually see. We'll go through day by day, so you can actually see those numbers. All right, so those are blood sugars. Let me go ahead and hop over and let's take a look at my Contour and my Keto Mojo. So let me grab a strip for this. And I do this really because a lot of people are interested in what the different monitors are like. Are they the same? Do they give us the same number? And as you know, the monitors are actually allowed to be about 20% different from each other. So this is a Keto Mojo strip. Let's go ahead and grab that and put this in here. And I'm going to also open the ketones. Ketone strip, and I've not been fasting since, there you go, not been fasting since Friday. Let's see, did that work? Let's get this one back in here. All right, there we go. All right, and so here's my Lancet, and that's the little needle that you'll see there. And I have been kind of picking on this one finger, so we'll see if it cooperates still. Ow, 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 ow. All right, hopefully that gives me a good, yeah, there you go, a good flow. Nice little drop. That's for the Keto Mojo. Let's get one onto the Contour. And so you see 95 for the Keto Mojo. The Contour will come up here. Actually, I'm not sure what happened to that one. Huh. Interesting. Let me grab another strip because that didn't quite work. In the meantime, let me grab the Keto Mojo out of there because I can get that one started before this drop of blood dries. No, don't dry, don't dry, don't dry. Because if it dries, guess what? Guess what I have to do? I have to stick myself again, which I do not want to do more than I have to, right? If I have to, I have to. But I want to do it more. Okay, so there you go. And I think this is still good. I can still get a drop of blood there. All right. Okay, so you'll see there that so the Keto Mojo, my ketones are 0.5. And according to the Contour, blood sugar is 111. And then, of course, there is the Dexcom, not Dexcom, but the Freestyle. The other parameter that I want to look at, because we are tracking that now and we're being more intentional about looking at these, is my weight. And so when we ended last Friday, if you recall, well, let me go back, see if I can find that. I think I took a picture. My weight was, well, let me not speculate. Let's see, what was it? Let's get back. And I think this is it. All right, here we are. So 184.4 is what you see there. And then, of course, that was on Friday. And then, of course, let's get rid of that one. Now 186, 184.4 and 186. So 1.6 pounds over the course of the last, so Friday morning, to Saturday morning, Saturday morning to Sunday morning, Sunday morning to Monday. So the past 3 days, right? So 1.4 pounds. And we're not talking about weight necessarily here. We'll talk more about that as we get into the upcoming series and upcoming shows that we'll talk about. But it is what it is, right? So we've been tracking that, and we'll talk more about what that means and so forth as we move forward. So that is there. You see my ketones are 0.5, right? So meaning that I've actually been doing, let me come back over here. That means that whatever I've been eating over the last little while has helped me to maintain ketosis. Let me go ahead. I'm actually pull it into the Keto Mojo app so that we'll have a record of it. Let me go ahead and sync that, and then we can talk a little bit about that. Okay. So that's where I am. Let's go ahead and say hello to our community members, and then we'll come back, have our conversation about our topic tonight, and then so it's taking a while to, oh, you know what? That's because this thing shut off. It has to be on for it to sync. There we go. So it's finally pulling that over, and then on the app, of course, we'll be able to see that, and we can track. Let me go back down here. We can track what the ketones have been over the course of, so this is where I was, I think, Friday when I broke the fast right here. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and let's say hello to community members. I do see some of you out there. So let's see, where are we? All right. So let's see who we've got. So look, Boy, hey, how are you? Just saying hi, everyone. I'm glad that you're here. And then we've got Teresa. Teresa saying, hey, doctor and everyone. Pamela saying, hello, everybody. Steve has a question. And Steve, let me hold on to your question there for a minute, okay? So we'll come back and we'll take a look at that. This has been an issue for a few weeks. Okay, so I'm gonna star that as well because I think that deals with the previous question. And then Steve is saying, hello, ladies. Well, let's go ahead, Steve. Let's go ahead and answer that question now, because I think let me pull it back up. So I started, but let's say. So here's a question: I'm having glucose measurement issues in the AM 52 on my Libre, which is a 2. My AccuCheck says 122. Currently, a 32-point difference. Should I speak to my provider about a new Libre 2? Says this has been an issue for a few weeks. So a couple of thoughts. So let's see, 122 and so 22, so 20% different, right? So 122, and if you compare those, so that's 24. So it's been more than 20. Has anything changed? Would be one question, because there are some things that can interfere with these tests. If you're doing a lot of vitamin C, if you're doing some acetaminophen, that can have an effect as well. If you've been ill, that can have an effect where the numbers don't quite match up. I would get an updated. I should say updated. The Libre 2s are going away, and so the Libre 3 is what is out there now. Libre 3, Libre 3 Plus. So this may be a good time to upgrade anyway, right? So this may be a time to say, hey, I've been on the 2, I really liked it, having some issues, not quite sure what's going on. Since we're gonna have to upgrade here in a little while anyway, let's go ahead and do that now, okay? And that would be one way to get around it. The other way would be to get a different meter, right? Just like I do here, I actually look at 4 different meters, right? So I've got the Freestyle Libre 3, I've got the Dexcom Clarity, I've got the Keto Mojo, I've got the Contour And one of the things that I'm actually probably going to start doing is using a Stello, because there are a lot of people now who are using Stellos who are not diabetic, and it makes sense to really just kind of have one that I can use to talk with those people. So get another meter. You can pick another one up at Walmart or any of the pharmacies, and then use that to try to just kind of look at your numbers. Okay, so that would be one way of dealing with that. But yeah, it can be frustrating, and I know. I know somebody asked me like which one of the sensors meters I like, which is my favorite, and I really don't have a favorite. There are some preferences I have for various reasons, but I use all of the meters. When I get a number on one, don't like it, get a number on another. Well, my goal is always I'm comparing the two, right? And then sometimes I'll even tie break it with a third. And I'm looking for the general trends of my blood sugars for that day. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. So let's go ahead and let's hop into our discussion for today, and we're talking about intellectual health. So let's do that now. All right. So we've been talking about domains of health. And often I get the question, what do these things that we're talking about, these domains, why are they important, and why do they impact our health? And the answer for that is that we have learned limitless living when we did our New Year, New You, as we talked about the art of letting go. We're designing a new version of ourselves. We know that the only thing that affects blood sugar is not like we often think, that it's just our food. In fact, even if we say that food is the driving force behind our health, all of the domains affect our ability to make right choices in terms of food. And so our domains, as we've kind of walked through them, each of them is playing an integral part in what happens to you as you're going through your life. Think of the domains kind of like a wheel with 8 spokes, and we've gone through 7 tonight. We're doing the 8th, and think of that as a wheel with 8 spokes. And if all of them are symmetrical, if they're not bent, if they're working well, then that wheel rolls nice and smoothly. And because the wheel is what's taking us through life, then life moves well, and it's nice and symmetrical. If one of those spokes is not straight, if it's bent, if it has a defect, then that wheel starts to become choppy and rough, and the ride that we're taking through our lives becomes difficult. And it is those difficult moments that ultimately push us in directions metabolically that take us off course, and that push us in directions that we don't want to go. So the domains of health really are those things in our lives that have such global effects that they will affect all of the things that we do, the behaviors that we have, the way we deal with issues, the way we interact with food, the way we interact with other people, the kind of rest that we get, the decision that we make when we know that we need to be getting up and getting into our day and exercising and walking and all the other things that we talk about. It's the domains of health that drives that. So if we don't understand that, if we don't deal with that, if we don't take charge of that, then we have very difficult, choppy lives, and that ultimately has an effect on our metabolism. And we've already agreed that dysfunctional metabolism is the thing that causes our chronic diseases, most of our chronic diseases. And if we can get that regulated, then that improves our ability to move successfully through our life, right? And so it's about tapping into all of those. And tonight we're talking about tapping into one of the most overlooked assets on the path to vibrant health, and that's our mind. And we've talked about our our mental health. We've talked about our emotional health. We've talked about social and spiritual, and environmental. We did that, and work, right? So our occupational health that we did last week. And so now we want to jump into the final domain, which is talking about our intellectual health. So let's talk a little bit about it. What is intellectual health? So let's clarify what we mean by intellectual health. So it is the capacity to think critically, to stay mentally stimulated, to look for knowledge, to learn, to remain open to new ideas. It's not about intelligence. So we're not talking about how smart you are. It's about engagement, about staying sharp, about choosing growth over stagnation. So a lot of things that I see now, and everyone is interested in remaining mentally clear. So as people are aging, so they're doing crossword puzzles, they're doing, and I'll give a list here in a minute. Last week I did a show, not a show, but I did a talk for a group from my church, and we talked about type 3 diabetes, right? This phrase that's being thrown around by researchers and clinicians, and type 3 diabetes is this idea that you can have insulin resistance within the brain. And we believe that it is this insulin resistance that leads to a lot of the dementia that we're seeing, right? Things like Alzheimer's and down the road. And a lot of people are trying to jumpstart the brain, remain lucid, remain clear, keeping their ability to calculate, and they are understanding that the brain, if we can keep it active, has a big part to play in our memory, in our personalities, in our thought process, and can help delay dementia, if you will. And so here, intellectual health not only helps with that, on understanding that, but some other things that we're going to talk about here as we get down into the discussion, right? So some key pillars of intellectual health. Number one, curiosity and creativity. Curiosity and creativity. I won't go through that right now. Lifelong learning is another one. Mental challenge and stimulation. One of the things I talked to my son about, and we started doing some exercising together, and the concept that I was trying to get over to him and that we're learning is that controlled tension leads to growth. Controlled tension and recovery, right, leads to growth. So we've been lifting weights. So often when we're lifting weights, and watch our show, watch our series, by the way, when we lift, the tendency is once you have done the contraction is to just let the weights fall down, right? Not to the ground, but you just let it go. But it is the control, not just in the flexion, but the relaxation, that tension that comes when you're relaxing, the controlled tension that actually causes the muscles to do what they need to do, so that when you now go into recovery, that recovery causes that muscle to grow. Okay? And so our mental challenges, those challenges that we give ourselves, whatever it is, the puzzle, the book that we're reading, the thing that we're learning, it is the expansion, it is the tension, it is the stretching and the stimulation that causes our intellectual health to continue to process and continue to grow. Open Open-mindedness, so being open to new ideas and open to other things. Critical thinking and reflection. One of the things that I'm working on is my critical thinking. And I heard someone say to me recently that they teach thinking about thinking. Is your thought process a good way of thinking? But why does that matter? Why does that matter for your physical health and for your metabolic success? Because when your mind is sharp, your decisions are sharper. You become more aware of what you're doing. You become more aware of what you're consuming. You become more aware of why you're consuming it. One of the challenges when I teach limitless living, when I teach balanced bites, when I teach the HEAT model, right? Habits, emotions, access, and taste. Those are the triggers. When I teach balanced bites, that's whole foods, minimize processing, minimize no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, portion control, tasty, right? So that's the meal plan that we are using, or the rules that we're using to come up with our meal plan. Sometimes the difficulty is not in the plan itself, because the thoughts, the concepts are pretty simple, but it's someone's ability to understand and to now begin implementing. So understanding why you're consuming the things you're consuming, being able to apply the COPE model, clarify, observe, pause, and execute. All of that requires that you are continually working on your mentation. So when we talk about intellectual health, we're not just talking about you being smart. We're talking about all of those components. So how does intellectual health drive wellness? Drive particularly metabolic wellness? Well, we know that the path to health is not just about what you eat or how we move, but also how we think. Right? So let's go back to our car model. He said our body is the car. That's our physical health. The emotions come from how we see the world. How we see the world comes from our thought process and our mentation, and the intellectual health is what informs. It is what supports and informs the mental health. So a strong intellectual life supports better health literacy. You understand what's happening in your body. As we're talking, as we're going through these concepts about metabolism and insulin resistance and how muscles move and why a particular thing will raise your blood sugar, hence causing insulin to go up. When insulin goes up, it dysregulates our growth, our satiety hormone and our hunger hormone. All those concepts require some health literacy. And that comes through the intellectual health, the understanding. It also, intellectual life, supports decision making. So you spot patterns. You ask questions. You have habits. You make smarter choices. If you notice that, man, every time I have a conversation with that person, I end up sitting at the table eating ice cream. Or every time I have a project that's due, that's the time when it seems as though I am not able to stay on my fast. So being able to look and see those patterns, that ability has everything to do with your intellectual health. Problem solving. You don't just react. You respond with strategy. That's the COPE model. The COPE model is a problem-solving paradigm. I clarify what is causing me to behave like this. I know it can't be that I'm hungry. Why am I eating this donut? Why am I running down to the store to get some ice cream? Why am I staying up late? So that we allow the prefrontal cortex to overshadow the amygdala. Remember, the amygdala is that primitive survival mechanism that's in our brain. And the amygdala is going to say, let's react. That person did something to me and I can't do anything about it, so let's go eat. But the prefrontal cortex now comes over because our intellect has been stimulated, our intellect has been informed, our intellect has been expanded, and it comes over and says, hey, you don't have to eat just because they hurt your feelings. You can respond with a different strategy. Your intellectual health also helps you with behavioral flexibility. You adapt when your plan isn't working. It didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. My project didn't come out the way I thought it was going to go. The relationship didn't happen. I didn't save the money. I'm looking now at my retirement because of the stuff that's going on in our economy. And I don't understand what's going on. It didn't work the way I thought it was going to work. But because I'm intellectually flexible, because I understand, I don't have to just allow things to happen. It also helps with resilience because a curious mind doesn't quit. It looks for alternatives. Let me say that again. A curious mind doesn't quit. It looks for other ways of doing that. I'm trying to get from here to there, and this avenue is blocked. How can I get there another way? And that all comes from the intellect. So when someone learns about insulin resistance, they don't just hear avoid sugar. This is a good one. This is a good one. So I use my son a lot in my conversations, because there are a lot of things that happen that parallel how we teach. So when my son was young, say we told him not to go up the stairs. And the reason we told him not to go up the stairs is because he was small and there was nobody around necessarily to watch him go up and down. And so it was a dangerous thing. Well, if I never come back and explain to him, or if he never learns that there was nothing wrong with the stairs, then he grows up believing that going upstairs is bad. Right? So don't go upstairs. So when we talk to people about insulin resistance, often, and we talk about the food, hey, don't eat X or don't eat Y. And of course we give that list, but what they hear is avoid sugar. And so I have people who go to the grocery store, right, Balance Bites, and they look at the package, and it says no added sugar, which is what we say. Well, that doesn't translate in their mind that, hey, yeah, I'm avoiding sugar, but look at this. This thing has 75 grams of carbs per serving. So they've never made the connection between the sugar and the carbs, or the carbs and the blood sugar. What goes on in their body. And so they don't, when you have intellectual health, you don't just understand the thing, avoid sugar. You understand why we need to avoid sugar. And so now I can extrapolate that to, okay, now I need to not just avoid sugar, but I need to watch the number of carbs that I eat. And when that happens, that why, it builds motivation. It anchors habits. It makes the process personal and sustainable. Because remember, we're not just looking to do something today, tomorrow, next week, next month, maybe even next year. We're looking to do something that we can do for the rest of our lives. And so when that process becomes personal and sustainable, that's intellectual health in action. So that when people see this, right, and I guess let's make an example. Let's use this for an example. One of the reasons that people's weight does not stay where they want it is because it fluctuates, right? So they go on a diet. They take one of the GLPs. And they are moving through the process and they're losing weight. Man, the weight's dropping 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 pounds. Even people who have bariatric surgery, they go through surgery and they get down 100 pounds lower. But what we didn't do is we didn't help them in their intellectual health. We didn't expand that. We didn't help them to grow. We didn't help them to understand those things. So now they've had surgery and they've lost the weight. And I've seen people put back the weight, 100 pounds sometimes. And I've seen them go beyond 100 pounds. People who are on GLPs, all those things that we talk about, those medications, they lose the weight, but we never teach them. We never come with them. We never say to them, hey, or they never expand. And so when the GLP goes away, or something happens, they can't take it, because they have a side effect, or the insurance says, I'm not paying for it anymore, guess what happens? Because it's not sustainable if there is no intellect that goes with it. So what are some signs that you are neglecting your intellectual health? If you're stuck in routines, if you're avoiding change, or you're finding it hard to stay motivated, your intellectual health may be undernourished. Maybe not undernourished. So what are some warning signs? What are some warning signs that this is the case? You're feeling mentally dull or uninterested in learning. Like, yeah, it is what it is. I don't want to hear anything else. You avoid challenges or new routines. Like, I've been doing it this way. This is the way it's going to be. We're going to keep doing it just like this. You're relying on autopilot rather than intentional living. Things are just happening. And one of the episodes that we did in our walking series, the Bridge to Mastery, I was talking about this idea of internal versus external locus of control. Limitless Living says that we're no longer allowing things to just happen to us. Things don't just happen. We are intentionally doing the things that we want. And we may not be able to control everything. There are some things I can't control. I can't control the weather. I can't control the economy. I can't control what other people do. But I certainly can control myself. And a lot of that comes from here. We have limited curiosity or limited questioning. So these are warning signs. We resist new health ideas or new health tools. So signs that neglect is happening in our intellectual health. Without stimulation, the brain slows. That's why all these people now are doing puzzles. They're writing. They are doing jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles. They're putting stuff together, right? Why? Because they're trying to stimulate the brain. Habits become unconscious. Growth can stall if we are not continually working. But here's the good news. You can never just stall and say, well, I can't change anything, because we believe that we have the power, we have the ability to make change. Self-efficacy says that I can dictate, I can chart the course of where I go, my success in my health, based on the decisions and the actions that I take. And this can happen at any age. So how do we strengthen our intellectual health? Let's talk strategy. Because it's great to have, right? Great to have the theory, but let's talk some strategy. So this domain doesn't require books or lectures. Now, there are lots of stuff out there. right? But it requires engagement. And you've heard me say over and over as we've talked through several of our episodes. As a matter of fact, as I've been doing these Dwain Woode MD lives, one of the things that you hear me continually say is that the things that you learn, right? We educate, we empower, and we encourage. The things that you learn, they only get power. They're infused with amazing power when you take action. It requires your engagement. When we talked about New Year, New You, moving into limitless living, the one thing that I said was that the key was not the new year, the key was the new you. And so the domains of health, they're great. I think they're amazing, but if you don't engage with them, all they are, that's theory. So here are some ways to sharpen your mind and strengthen your health. Number one, learn something new on a weekly basis. That's right, you heard me say weekly. Oh, by the way, right? One of the great places to do that is get where? Right here, Dwain Woode MD Live. We educate. So learn something new on a weekly basis. Pick a topic, even if it's unrelated to health, and dive in. My son thinks I'm a little weird, which I may be, but I subscribe to, there are some math channels and some physics channels and some science channels that I subscribe to, and they send me math problems. They send me lectures, and I'm watching them, how to do algebra, how to do differential equations, Ohm's law. And so why? Because that stuff interests me, and I'm always trying to keep my mind going. He said, so you're doing math like deliberately without having to do it? Nobody's telling you? I was like, no, this is me. Dive in. Learn a new recipe. Watch a new documentary. Learn a new concept from our show. Anything. Make curiosity your lifestyle. Because what are we doing? We are trying to expand our mind. Because remember, everything that flows into our metabolism is based on the decisions that we make. Ask more questions. This is a great one, right? So I'm learning the framework for one of the frameworks for critical thinking. And one of the frameworks says that we have to question. So instead of, this is just how we eat. This is just how I eat. This is how I've always eaten. This is how I've always lived. This is how my body has always been. No. Why do I crave that food at night? Ask a question. That doesn't mean that you're not going to eat the food, but the more you ask the question, the more the answer is likely to come. And at some point, your brain's going to say, you're right. Why am I eating this? It's not just how we do. One of my favorite things to do in the office is when I see someone and we're talking, particularly people who are having difficulty with blood sugar and people who are having difficulty with weight. And they'll say, and they'll name their thing. Or I'll ask them, what is your food of choice? What is your what's the thing that gives you the most difficulty, right? What's that food? And a lot of times people will tell me, I like to eat salad. And I'll say, yeah, I know you like to eat salad, but this blood sugar right here, this is not coming from salad. It's coming from something else. So what is that thing? And they'll say, I like to eat, and I'm going to use my example, right? So I like to eat Cadbury chocolates. And I'll say to them, why? They say, I don't know, I just like them. And I want you to notice here, right? This is where, for instance, that conversation that I just started, hey, why do you eat Cadbury chocolate? I don't know, I just like them. Right? This is where the heat model. So I'll say to them, well, most of the times when we are triggered to eat something, it's either a habit, it's either some emotion, it's either because stuff is just around, or it brings back some memory. And you can't imagine the number of times that when I just list those 4 things. Now notice I haven't explained them. We haven't dove into them. We haven't done a deeper dive. We haven't done all I did was list habits, emotions, access, and taste. And they say, you know what? Yes, a lot of times I'm up late at night and I'm bored. I don't know what to do. I don't have anything else to do. And so I eat. Or when I talk to patients who say, man, I grew up with some family members. My parents weren't around, or my parents passed away. And I grew up with a family member. And my family member used to travel. And they had some kids, my cousins that I hung out with. And every time they came back, they would bring us a Cadbury. Now notice what happened. People are 60, 70, 80 years old, and they are eating Cadburys because it brings them back to when they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because a family member brought Cadburys to them as a gift, as a present to say, hey, I'm back now. I've been traveling, but I was thinking about you. And the security, the calm, the safety, the love comes all the way. And every time they eat a Cadbury, since that time, for the next 70 years, so it's not just that you like Cadburys. Notice I said it's not just. You may like them because it tastes good. But something else is going on. So how else can we strengthen our intellectual health? We can read or listen for growth. If I had audiobooks, or if I'd paid attention to audiobooks earlier in my life, I would be so much smarter. Right? Books, podcasts, interviews. There is a plethora of information. Surround your mind with ideas that stretch you, that uplift you. Remember, controlled tension followed by recovery is what causes growth. Let those inputs shape you. I gave an example, once again, back to one of our thoughts, one of our episodes of the Bridge to Mastery, the mini-series that we're doing right now. I was explaining to someone what's going on in my head and the connections that are being made. We'll talk about neuroplasticity here in just a minute. But I get an idea, and it's like that concept explodes. And just like an explosion, there are all these particles that are being scattered all over the place, right? From the explosion, from that nucleus. And every particle that comes out of the explosion hits into another particle somewhere. And that causes an explosion. And that causes stuff to go out. And so what's happening is when you are learning, when you are open, when your intellect is stimulated, when you're thinking about thinking, there are all these connections that are being made, and everywhere there are these explosions that are happening, and the explosions can't be contained. And you are continuing to grow. And every time you grow, you have the potential, limitless living, to improve where you are, improve your mind, improve your health, and of course, help your metabolism and reverse your diabetes. We're coming to that in a minute. All right, so we're talking about how to strengthen your intellectual health. So learn something new weekly, ask more questions, read or listen for growth. How about this? Create something. Oh, create something. You like to paint, go paint. You like to do crossword puzzles, do some crossword puzzles. You have a book that's in you. You have a podcast. You like to speak. Go join a program. Find out where you can go talk. Build a routine. creatively strengthen your neural pathways. Creatively strengthen them. You can do that. And creativity strengthens them. So when you're being creative and your mind is expanding, it's a constant feedback loop. One of the reasons I love to wear my sensors is that it's automatic feedback. I don't have to wonder. I don't have to wait to find out what's going on in my body. When I eat something, when I'm upset, when I'm sleeping, when I don't sleep, when I exercise, I see it right there in real time. And when you are being creative, you're getting automatic feedback. Do you know creativity boosts dopamine? Do you know what dopamine is? Yeah, dopamine is that hormone that gives us that sense of pleasure. It's the anticipatory hormone. It's the hormone that says, yeah, I like that. That we get when we eat food. We get that. And this comes from just being creative. Can you imagine what it's like to replace food, that buffering behavior, with creativity? You know what? I was stressed today, so what I did was I went and I painted. Or when I wrote my book, I went and I wrote my song. I went and I played on the piano. I read, and whatever it is, create something. Join discussions. Right here, right? Whether in here on the show or in our Kajabi as part of our membership, or you are part of another group. Join the discussion. Don't just watch. Don't just let other people talk. Talking through ideas and concepts expands and clarifies. It reinforces. See one, teach one, do one is what they taught us as we went through medical school. What that meant was, if I needed to do a procedure, put a central line, do a lumbar puncture, do a paracentesis, that's taking fluid out of the abdomen, or taking a thoracentesis, right? Whatever it was, getting blood. My senior, or the person that was teaching me, showed me how to do it. C1, I saw it. And they said, okay, now you do it. So I got in there and I did it. And teach it. C1, do one, teach one. Now I'm teaching other people how to do it. So when you're learning, follow that process. See it, learn it, do it, engage with it, and then teach it to somebody else. That's why you always hear me say that you could be the voice for change in your house, in your family, in your community, at your school, at your church, at your doctor's office, wherever you find yourself, the stuff that you've just learned, limitless living, teach it to somebody else. Yeah. So what is the role of intellectual health in reversing diabetes? Because after all, right, we said that that's what we want to do. So let's connect the dots. Let's connect this to what we've been working on all year. Intellectual habits that come from our intellectual health is the foundation for understanding, one, the labs that we get from our doctor, right? We're learning. It helps us understand becoming committed to fasting or new routines. Why are we fasting? What should be happening? What should I see? That's why I show you all this data. That's why I do a 72-hour fast. Well, one of the reasons, right? I also do it for my health. But one of the reasons I do a 72-hour fast is I want you to see through the fast what happens in my body, so that you understand. It also helps you learn from setbacks without shame. Talking about intellectual health. So many times people will say, man, or at the office, one of the things I point out to the students who are coming through is sometimes people will come and they've had something happen in their lives, right? So they've had some challenge. And in their lives, when they show up, their head is hung, right? They don't look me in the eye. They think they've been bad. And I tell them, I said, I'm kind of like the mechanic. You bring your car into the mechanic. I've never gone there where the guy slapped my hand and said, hey, wait, you should have brought this in earlier. Even as bad as I treat my cars. So we learn from setbacks without shame. It also helps us to plan our meals, plan our movements, plan our sleep. So we'll be introducing our Limitless Living Health Action Plan coming up in some future episodes. That's it right there. It requires planning. It requires us to have forethought. You can't just wake up every day and just let anything happen. That's not what Limitless Living says. It says that we are taking charge. We are doing what we need to do. We are not allowing anybody else to interrupt us. We're not being constrained anymore. We're breaking free and doing what we need to do to be successful. And then your intellect allows you to be intentional and not just reactive. So I'm not just going to let things happen and then respond to it, but I'm putting some things in place, even though I know that I can't control everything. What I can control, though, I'm controlling it. I can control how you behave, but I can control what I say to you, what I let you do. I can tell you the number of people that say to me, well, I eat this way because that's what my husband bought, or that's what my wife bought. Or I go and I'm taking care of the grandchildren, and the grandchildren want to eat candy. You don't have to eat candy unless you want to, but don't let it be. Well, let me make this point. This is a good point. And the point I want to make is that you may end up still eating the ice cream, the cookies, the candy, the cake, right? The pasta. So this is not about stopping you from eating those things. Yeah, people look at me when I say that. So I'm not trying to stop you from eating those things. What I am trying to get you to do is understand why you're eating them. Now, you may still decide, I know what this is doing, but I'm still going to eat it. Like I do that. Cadbury. Right? I know it's going to raise my blood sugar, but I'm going to do it. But I understand why I'm doing it. And I get to make the choice whether I do that or not. It didn't just happen. No, it didn't. I didn't just ride through the grocery store and Cadbury's, like I didn't get run down by Cadbury's and they jumped into my cart. No, that's not how it happened. I went down the aisle and I picked them up and I put them in my cart. I rolled the cart up to the front. I scanned it, put it in the back, and I paid money for it and then took it to my car. That's how that happened. I made the decision. So Limitless Living is powered by knowledge and it's infused with action. And when your mind is strong, your metabolism flows with it. Metabolism flows with it. So how do we keep it going? Right? So the intellectual health domain isn't done. It evolves. That's why we built our weekly show. We educate and we challenge. That's why we're walking the series that we have to explore new ideas. We explore motion. That's why we came up with the Balanced Bites, because it helps you to have a framework to now work within. Notice the Balanced Bites never told you a list of foods to eat and not to eat. All it did was give you a framework. It allows you to have some tools, like the Limitless Living Health Action Plan that you're going to hear more about. It allows you to apply what you're learning. We educate, we empower, we encourage. You are the CEO of your body. And as a CEO, you have got to do what you need to do to keep the company going. And a CEO keeps growing, keeps reading, keeps learning, keeps adapting, And when you do that, then the things that happen downstream are not just things that happen. Your blood pressure didn't just happen. Your blood sugar didn't just happen. You didn't just put on weight. No. Those things happen, one, because there may have been a lack of understanding. There may be a lack of structure. Remember, rhythm, alignment, and structure. RAS, rhythm, alignment, and structure. We don't fail because we don't have desire. We don't fail because we don't have vision. We don't even fail because we don't have motivation or know-how. We fail because either we don't have a rhythm for our lives, we don't have a tenure, we don't have a bent for our lives, we don't know what's going to happen. And the things that we do are not aligned with where we say we're going. We're doing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of action that's happening. We're very busy, but are those things aligned, and are they taking us in the direction that we say we want to go? Rhythm, alignment, and then structure. Do you have something? Do you have a structure on a daily basis that automates the process, that keeps you moving in the direction, even when motivation goes away? Because remember, motivation is fleeting. You'll wake up tomorrow and you're like, well, I'm not doing that today. Motivation is gone. Right? You went to church and you heard this great sermon and they motivate you. And then on Monday morning, guess what? Work happens. Where's the motivation? You went away on vacation and you promised yourself on vacation, when I come back, I'm not going to let myself get stressed. And you come back from a vacation motivated, but you didn't do anything to not get stressed. You didn't put anything in place. Where's the structure? Rhythm, alignment, and structure. So what I want you to do this week is pick one thing to activate your intellectual domain, your intellectual health. Watch a health documentary. Go back and watch one of our shows. Read a chapter in a new book. Try a new fasting schedule, or refine, reinforce the one that you now do. Get back to it. Create a health tracker spreadsheet where you're writing down the things that you're doing. Join our community. Make a decision to share what you've learned with somebody in your family. You know people who are diabetic, who are having terrible blood sugars, who are having complications from their blood sugars, who are having heart attacks and strokes. They're going on dialysis. They're having vision problems. Their feet are numb and tingly. They've had strokes. That's a place where you can be. And you now have all 8 domains. The wheel is complete, but the journey is just beginning. Your body follows your mind. If you think stagnantly, then you stay in a stagnant position. But if you think limitlessly, you live limitlessly. So go out, sharpen your mind, because when you do, you strengthen your health. And limitless living says that I'm not allowing anything from outside or anything from inside to keep me from doing what I need to do to be successful. I'm presenting my best self, my best health, and my best plans for my life. Your health is yours to shape. Your future is yours to direct. And it begins right here with your intellectual health. Thank you. This is a great conversation. Love it. We'll be right back. All right, man, this conversation is one of my favorite conversations. I know I say that all the time, but it is one that really does capture my passion for this space, because that's where the Triple E formula for success comes from. That this idea that we have got to continue to educate, empower, encourage. We don't explain stuff. In my office, they say I tell a lot of stories, and I do, right? So I love stories. The reason for that is that sometimes if you don't understand, if you can't get people to understand, then the thing that you want them to get, it is lost. And when people just do things just because, it doesn't last. So everything that we do is built on our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows, with the blogs, with the podcast. We empower with the tools that we're learning. 100-Day Walk to Consistency, our strength training and mindset that's coming up, the fasting shows that we do, right? The tools that we've created, the HEAT model, the COPE model, right? Our rhythm, alignment, and structure idea. All of those are tools to apply to your life the things that we've learned. They allow you to give power to those ideas. Because remember, without you, it's just a thought. It's just an idea. It's just something in a book or something on a video. It's just something that Dr. Woode said. Until you actuate it and infuse it with your behavior and your action, then it comes to life. And the community that we're building, we educate, we empower, and we encourage. The community that you're in, let me say, the community that you're in has the potential, has the power to take you way beyond what you ever thought and expected from yourself. It allows you to grow. It allows you to be who you are while you're growing. I've given you an example. Sometimes I'm in certain communities and I'll say something and the entire community understands. I never had to explain it. I didn't have to tell the story. All I said was I blah, 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 right? For example, I went to the store and I bought 18 Cadbury chocolates. I was upset. Now, if you are someone who understands, you're in the community, you know what that means. Because sometimes you've been there. So join a community. Educate, empower, and encourage. And I'm so excited for this community that we're in. So let me hop over and say hello to some folks. First, let me get back into, because we're going to take a look at my blood sugars to see what's been going on over the last several days, because I do want you to see that so that you understand what's been happening since we ended our fast here a couple of days ago. Let's go here. All right. So let's see. Who do we have out there? Let's go back. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. And I think Cornelia, I think that's where we were. So Cornelia says, hi, everyone. Bui says, hi, Gian. Gian says, hi, Doctor, hi, Limitless Living Gang, LLG. I love it. Gian said, I learned a lot in the live community. Yes, beautiful community. Hi, Cornelia from Gian. Gian says, I always think about why I'm doing this and eating like this, binging all the time. Yeah, it does help to really put some thought and structure to the things that we do and eat. And once again, I want to remind you, everybody, if you're listening to me, the goal for you going through the COPE model, for you understanding the HEAT model, the goal for mindfulness is understanding, right? So we can do metabolism in several ways. Two of the ways that we can do it. Number one, we could find all the people that are eating all the stuff that we said that they shouldn't eat, and we can go steal it. Right? We put it in the trash and burn it. That's one way. If we do that, you know what happens? They find something else. Mm-hmm. or they sneak around and do it because they never learned. They never understood. I tell the story, and I've been giving permission to tell this story, by the way. So I tell the story of a couple that we took care years ago, and the husband was not the diabetic. The wife was the diabetic. And so they come to the office, and we've gone through the visit, and I'm getting ready to leave the room, and the husband is like, he's antsy, and he has something he wants to tell me. And so the wife says, "Why don't you just go ahead and tell him?" And so at this, of course, I'm curious. So I come back in there. I come back to the room, and I sat down and said, what's going on? And he says, "Dr. Woode, let me tell you." He said, I went to the store, and I come home, and they're 76 years old. Both of them were 76 at the time. He said, I couldn't find my wife. And I know she has to be there because she doesn't drive, or I had the car. And we live in a ranch, so it's not like we upstairs, downstairs, right? So it's just the house, so she has to be here somewhere. So he said he walks into the house, he's walking through the house, and he's calling. And he hears he's walked down the hall, and he hears in their bedroom, like the shower is going. And so he goes into the room, right? And he pulls back the shower curtain. And he said, "Dr. Woode, you'll never guess what I saw." I said, "What'd you see?" He said, "My fully clothed 76-year-old wife in the shower eating a Snicker bar." So she was eating a Snicker bar somewhere in the house, and she heard him come home, and she didn't know what to do. And so what her first thought, the thing that she thought to do, was to run in the bathroom, turn on the shower, and she's standing there in the shower eating a Snicker bar. Or the couple who the husband said he finds like food wrappers hit all over the house. He'll go into a drawer for something, and there'll be like candy bar wrapper in there. In the garage, this candy, in the trunk of the car. Why? Because we just stole people's food. We never taught them how to deal with it. So limitless living is not about stealing food. It's about helping you to understand why you do the things you do. Because your body follows your mind. Your behaviors follow your emotions. And the emotions follow the feelings that come. And the feelings follow the meaning that you give to something that happens to you. Until you give it meaning, which is colored, by the way, by your thoughts, by your intellect, by your mind, by your memories, by your, right, all those things, it colors the interpretation that you give to things. And once you give it an interpretation, then everything else flows. You don't even have to make a decision from that point. As soon as you gave that event a definition, as soon as you gave it a meaning, everything else happens automatically because your body is geared to go down that place. So that's why it's so important that we are learning, that we are understanding what's going on in our bodies. Okay, so Cornelia says, "Hi, Gian." Jennifer says, "Howdy all." Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Hey, Cornelia and Jennifer. Hi, Teresa, Bowie, Steve, Pam. The Limitless Living Gang is in full effect. That's right, everybody's here. So hey, Pamela says, "Hey." Just everybody saying hi to each other. Gladdy. Teresa says, "Story." She's laughing at the story. Yeah, limitless living is not about stealing food. No, it is not about stealing food, right? I said to my wife one time, or one of the things I said this to her too, but one of the things I do in the office is I'll have patients come in and, they're with their spouses, they're with some family member, and I'll say to them, I said, put your hands on his or her shoulder, right? Put your hands on the shoulder. And usually this is the person who's not the diabetic, by the way. This is the person who is trying to steal the food. And I said, put your hands on their shoulder. What do you call him? What do you call her? And I said, I call him Joe. I call her Sue, whatever. And I said, I want you to look in their eyes. And I want you to say these words. I want you to say, Joe, Sue, I know that managing your diabetes is difficult. And I say, after you have said those words, after you've said those words, you can say whatever else you want. Right? I know managing your diabetes is difficult. I don't think you should be eating that candy. I know managing your diabetes is difficult. I know you shouldn't be staying up late. I know diabetes is difficult. I think you should be taking your medicine, right? Whatever it is, whatever the words are after that phrase, you can say whatever you want, because what you've just done is you said to the person that I get it. I may not understand diabetes. I don't have diabetes, but I get that it's difficult. But you can't just walk up to me. You can't just roll up to me and tell me not to eat the cookie. You haven't engendered any sympathy for, because the moment you tell me not to eat the cookie, guess what happens? My brain's like, all right, I'm not going to eat it now, but when you go to bed, or when I leave the house, or when I go to work, guess what I'm going to have? I'm going to have cookies. Because we've not made the connection yet. And we talk about this with in different areas. We talk about how people address children. We talk about this at church. We talk about this at school. We say, you can't just show up on somebody and tell them, hey, do such and such. You can't just do that without having a relationship. Now, there's an authority, of course, right? But what we're talking about for places where we are trying to help people to move along this path to be successful long term, at least let me know that you get it, like you feel it. And then you can say the stuff, right? Then you can say, okay, and then I'm more likely to listen. But before then, So if your husband, if your wife, if your child, if your mom, dad, cousin, uncle, mom and them, grandparents, friend in them, if they don't seem to get you and they seem frustrated all the time, try a different approach. Because if you can do that, if you can connect, boom, here we are. Wow. Great conversation. I love it. Love this conversation. This is what gives me like power. And for so long, and I was sharing this with someone in the office today. For so long, as I trained in medicine, as I practiced medicine, I was in my own struggle. And nothing within the system seemed to be able to help me be successful long term. Until limitless living, the concept began to take root and begin to grow. And I started seeing patients around me living through the same thing that I struggled with privately. That nobody talks about. And everybody pretends that everything is fine. Oh, go home. If you were strong enough, if you ate better, if you slept, that everything's going to be all right. No, it won't. Because you haven't taught me anything. You haven't allowed me to be who I am while walking me through the pathway to success. And that's why I love what we do. We educate, we empower, and we encourage y'all. Man, we're going to be back later this week as we continue to learn and use the pathway and use the tools, right? We'll be doing our fasting 72 hours as we move through the space of the next several days. We are back for fasting on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday as we do our complete review. Saturday night, 9 o'clock, we will be here with video from the vault. And then Sunday morning, we'll be back with our this week in review. Now we are moving, right? We're moving along the journey, the limitless living journey. This is not a destination. This is not okay, we did this and that's done. You had to understand the domains of health in order for you to understand that there is a foundation of things that you are continually having to do. You are using the limitless living inventory to evaluate all of the domains to make sure that your spokes and your wheel are all symmetrical and you're managing those. Now we're going to pivot and we're going to introduce a concept that is going to be amazing for you as we move into our metabolism, as we reverse our diabetes. Remember, even though I'm talking about diabetes, all the metabolic diseases, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, polycystic ovarian syndrome, obesity, metabolic syndrome, coronary artery disease, the risk for heart attacks and the risk for stroke, all of that gets better if you follow the limitless living pathway. Make sure you join us. We'll be right back here on Monday, 7 p.m. Central for Dwain Woode, MD Live. If you're not in our community, go ahead and join our community. For our community members, you'll see the link coming up in just a minute, and we'll see you after the show. Everybody, thank you for being here. We'll see you in our next episode. Good night.